Hi, I'm Sam Sorbo. You've heard me talk about Mike Lindell, who I adore. You know, he's the inventor of My Pillow, and how that pillow has given me a good night's sleep that I need. In fact, I never knew how good I could sleep before I had my pillow. Mike continues to roll out new offers on his products, and the latest one is on his towel sets. Towels aren't something you think about often. I never knew what I was missing until I tried the towels just last year. Now, you have all helped build My Pillow into the incredible company that it is today, and you've trusted Mike Lindell to give you a great night's sleep. Mike's now changing the game with his 6-piece towel set. The set's made with USA cotton, making it extremely absorbent, and yet still providing that soft feel you look for in a towel. The set comes with 2 bath, 2 hand towels, and 2 washcloths, typically retailing for $109.99. But for a limited time, you can get this set for the low price of $39.99. And that's using promo code Sam Sorbo. So remember, all My Pillow products come with a 60-day money-back guarantee. You just go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener specials to get this insanely low price of $39.99 on the towel set. You'll find deep discounts on other My Pillow products as well. So enter promo code Sam Sorbo, or you can call 800-625-5983. That's 800-625-5983 for these great radio specials. Hi, this is Sam Sorbo. I want to invite you all to join me at the Playbook for Home Learning Conference put on by Underground Education. There's a new community that started online called the Underground Education Community. You can find it by going to samsorbo.com. You can also find all the information about the conference, about how to approach education with your kids. Times are hard for parents right now. There's a lot going on in the schools that we don't like. But I'll tell you something, home learning is easier than you ever thought it could be and more fun than you ever imagined. So join me at the Your Playbook for Home Learning Conference this June 24-25 in Port St. Lucie, Florida. And we're going to have a great time. Go to samsorbo.com for more information on everything. I'll see you there. All right, welcome back to the Sam Sorbo Show. So good to have you here. My guest is now, she's an award-winning author of Women in the Bible, small group Bible study. It's a book and it's a small group Bible study, obviously. And she is loudly outspoken. She's become a dear friend of mine. Marina Hofman joins me. She's also a professor at Palm Beach Atlantic University of Bible studies, and she's just, you're just going to love her. So Marina, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Sam. You know, I'm your biggest fan. I love your podcast. I've listened to many of them 2-3 times. So thank you so much for your message. As you know, it's made the biggest difference in my life.
So the reason that we're talking today is not just your book, which I'd love to get into, but I want to talk about this latest thing, because we're both living in Florida. We're watching what's happening between DeSantis and Disney. Interesting, DeSantis and Disney. I never thought about it quite in those terms, but that's really what's going on. Disney's taken a pretty staunch stance. And I think that Disney must not realize that they're taking the stance that, yes, we believe in sexualizing young children. Is that how you see it?
Absolutely. And taking their worldview and all of their values. And I think more than just presenting it as an option, but trying to convince us that we should also have those values. And Sam, that's a lot what I take objection to. I'm not so upset that other people have different views than me, but it shouldn't be so loud that my own worldview is totally silenced.
Yeah, I think that's the point is, no, we know better for you. We know better for your children than you do. And what DeSantis is really promoting is, hey, let's make sure the parents still have a say in this. And parents really don't want their children sexualized at the ripe young age of 5, 6, and 7. So for kindergarten through 3rd grade, there will be no sexualizing of the children. And because he purports to represent parental values. Now, if the parents weren't behind that, they would vote him out of office. But Disney is saying, no, 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 you can't do that. We don't like that. We think that parents shouldn't have those rights and you shouldn't represent them in that way.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is weird, Sam, because I don't even think of myself as explaining all kinds of sexual content to my own girl when she turns 5. And I certainly would never want someone else to do it in a context where I'm not even present or I'm not in control of how and when and why that conversation comes up. And I think we both talked about parenting before. One of the principles is to let things happen naturally, to answer questions rather than to put them in a state where you're introducing things they haven't spoken about. So I think it's very strange that people are fighting to teach these young kids about sexual contents when their parents aren't present.
Yeah, in fact, you bring up a really interesting point, Marina, because you believe that the child should, in a sense, instigate the conversation like, Daddy, what does this mean? Or Mommy, I don't understand this. How does that happen?
You
And
know,
in fact, it seems like they want to preempt that so that they can control the narrative better because they're going to introduce the child to it before the child even has developed a curiosity about it.
oh, that's so true. And Sam, a few days ago, my daughter was playing with a puppy, a male puppy who rolled over. And you can imagine what she was pointing to when she said, "Oh, what's that?" I was not sure what to say. She's only 3. And thankfully, the other little boy at 5 turned to her and said, "Oh, that just means it's a boy dog." And they continued to play, and she never thought of it again. So we do have these moments. Sometimes they come earlier than we would expect. Certainly, that was my experience. But how easy and natural to just answer in a way that they understand in their own terms and not try to create some sense of false understanding that's way beyond what their little brains can comprehend.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think that the activists who want to get a hold of that conversation beforehand would tell her not that that means it's a boy dog at all, sadly,
Exactly.
because
It would
that
have taken a
conversation
whole
is out
different
the
turn.
window these
Yeah,
days.
and it didn't need to lead to other questions. It was just a very innocent question from a curious girl.
Right. You see something, what is that? Oh, that just means it's a boy dog. Oh, okay. And by the way, I think you've helped a lot of parents today just by telling them that story.
And I
Oh,
had no
very clever.
idea what to say, Sam. How I was caught off guard. I think I mentioned to you earlier, I don't expect this conversation for years. So it comes up in surprising ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's not a conversation. It's simply a question and answer. And sometimes we tend to overthink things, like the little girl who goes to her father and she says, "Daddy, what is sex?" And he thinks, well, she's very young, but I guess she's asking, so I'll explain it to her. So he gives her a rough down version of the birds and the bees, and she's got this screwed up look on her face, and he finally says, "But darling, why are you asking me?" And she says, "Well, Mom said to tell you dinner would be ready in a couple of secs."
Exactly, Sam. And how can we even know the context unless
Right.
we, the parents, are involved?
Right.
Exactly.
Why are you asking me this question? Oh, Mom said dinner was ready. Oh, okay. But we tend to jump in and overthink, and there's a lot of stigma that's attached to the conversation, and I think culturally we have been, in a sense, discouraged from having that conversation with our children because the school will take care of it and nobody wants to talk about that. And oh, it's shameful, it's hurtful, it's dangerous, it's all of these things. Meanwhile, you have 10-year-olds who are given iPhones and they're on Snapchat and they're being groomed for sex trafficking at the ripe age of 10 years old, and the parents don't even know it until
Yeah,
they're abducted.
the minute you give them a phone, or Sam, the minute you release your child to anyone who has a phone, an adult, their friends, the whole world is before them. And My experience is that all the children I talk to say to me, "You have no idea what I've seen." And I believe them, Sam, because there's a bit of a thrill of introducing something brand new to a child. Sadly, this transfers over into context that we don't necessarily want and is not the right time. But Sam, one thing I've been discovering is I think a way forward for parents is actually to engage in nature a little bit more. And how beautiful, even this morning, we learned a lot about the world and how things change as all of us get older, just through caterpillars turning into butterflies and then leaving their little eggs on the leaves that then become new caterpillars. So there's beautiful ways of introducing these subjects and these terms that doesn't involve that kind of shame or awkwardness that you refer to.
That's actually such a good point, is that you know, when we expose our children to the world, they have an innate curiosity that they're not necessarily looking for, let's just say they're not looking for sex, but they're looking for new intriguing things. And we all know the internet is ripe with sex. I mean, culture is ripe with sex these days. It's literally it's the one sort of cultural currency that's universal, it seems, and it's become so prevalent. And so the moment that you allow your child exposure to the real world, you're exposing them to things that are really beyond them to a large degree. And we have to be more careful. Do you have any advice for parents on how to be more careful? I mean, obviously we should limit their access to devices that's unsupervised or not limited, restricted in some way, right?
You know, Sam, it's such a challenge. It's such a challenge even to restrict their screens. So I think there's a few points we can take away. One, to determine what we want is best for our child within ourselves and the context of our partner, if we're married and such, the key caregivers of our children. And then to really commit to that. And it's hard. I see parents take away a phone and children wail and they lose control of themselves because they're utterly addicted, Sam, and it's painful to watch. And perhaps even more painful is to see that parent utterly unprepared, helpless, and just returning the phone to the child because they can't have a meltdown at a restaurant. So being committed to our values and saying it's going to be hard because our child is probably addicted and they'll go through withdrawal, but we can walk with them and help them through it. And then having a plan, because Sam, I think every parent knows to say no is not really as successful as saying yes to something else. So instead of just no, you can't watch a movie, what else can we do? And Sam, as countercultural as it is, can we be more involved in our children's life when they're angry and upset deep down because you're pulling away their addiction? Can you stop what you're doing and take the time to say, you and I, we're going to go on a nature walk, or we're just going to ride your bikes. What do you want to do instead? And then being willing to stop everything, put down our own phones as an example, and go with them. But I think we need to commit. I think we need support. And I think in my world, I need a plan. I need a whole closet full of puzzles and crafts if I'm going to make Willow keep the TV shut off during the day, Sam.
Yeah, having a plan is very helpful, but also having an escape plan. So if you go to a restaurant and your child starts to throw a tantrum, you or even just the grocery store, right? And your child wants you to buy something and you say no. And you know, a lot of parents use the word no, but they don't mean no. And the child knows that. It's very evident. Children are very clever this way, right? So if you say no, you have to mean no. You have to mean your word with your kids. So if you say no and they start to throw a tantrum, you have to be willing to leave the store. And you don't, here's what parents don't understand. Anger doesn't really serve. You just have to be consequential. The anger is not useful unless it's threatening. And you don't really want to have a threatening attitude with your children, especially young children. They shouldn't ever see like the threatening, angry face. There should simply be consequences. Once you start just implementing consequences without all the drama, you'll take the drama out of your life, and the consequences will speak for themselves and the children will behave accordingly. And it's comforting to the child to know that the consequences are there, to know that they will be implemented, and to know how to avoid them. Because then the entire world is an unknown to a child. And the only thing they have to go on are the things that they can rely on. And so if you're not reliable with your word as a parent, if your no means, well, maybe, if your yes means, I'm not sure, like you need to be consequential. Then the child has a security. They know what the rules are. It's all a new game to them, but they just need to know the rules. And so, yeah, I've had some confrontations with my kids, but they learned very early on when they were very young that I meant what I said. I tell this story to parents. I was at a birthday party, and it was at a fancy house, a big house, big pool. That she had a whole they had a waterfall and a water slide, and it was a whole theme park kind of pool. I mean, it was fabulous. And we were glad to be there. We had just shown up. I have to say I was tired. I was pregnant at the time, and my little boy was just a toddler. And he went over to these little toddler chairs that she had, and I don't know why, kids are silly, they do dumb things. He threw a chair and he just pushed it over. And I looked at him and I said, pick that up. And he said, no. And I said, okay, so you want to go home now? And he realized that it was a choice. He picked up the chair and we stayed, or he didn't pick up the chair. I picked up the chair and we went home. And I was tired. I'll be honest. I mean, I was ready to go home. Like, I didn't have to stay. It was a kid's party. And he looked at me and he considered, and he picked up the chair and he went on his way. And there was no drama. There was no anger. There was just, these are the rules. And he went on his way and he had a lovely time at the party. And the mother was standing next to me. And she said, and I never forget this because it really brought home to me what I had just done. I guess I was just instinctually just, doing my thing. She said, I guess I really have to follow through on my threats, don't I? And I was like, well, yeah, like, duh. But I guess maybe it's not self-evident. You don't threaten a child unless you're going to follow through on them. I mean, I remember I told him we wouldn't be able to do something if he did something, whatever, he did it. We weren't allowed to do it. I had to punish myself. It was the stupidest sort of consequence that I could have come up with, because it actually punished me, because now we weren't going to the thing that I wanted to go to. But I had to follow through on it because I told him that we wouldn't go if that other thing happened, and it happened. There's a logic to parenting that somehow we've grown away from. And so then we send our kids to school, and then the schools, quote unquote, parent them not effectively. And kids are growing up just completely confused. And that serves, unfortunately, the people with the Disney agenda.
Yeah, and I think both the challenge and the hope as parents is that the number one influence in our kids' lives ultimately, even though they spend more time in school than with us, is our example. And of course, if we blow up and yell while telling our children to get control of their emotions and to not blow up and yell, that works against us. But how hopeful also to realize that if we can take that deep breath, calm down for a minute, ask God for some patience in the moment, and then set the right example. Our children, regardless of how they respond in the minute, and no matter what the look we get, and no matter what they say, that example is planted deep within them. And that influence will carry them for life. And long after this teacher and that teacher is out of their life, they'll never forget the influence and the kind of people we were. So a challenge, of course, Sam, and something to bring to God in prayer. But also, that's my hope, that no matter what the influences around Willow, ultimately, I can control myself and continue to be an influence for good and for righteousness in my daughter's world.
Right, because your job right now is to form relationship with her. And that's what you're doing by looking at the butterflies and watching the cocoons being made and watching the little caterpillars, be born and stuff like that. Marina, I'm going to take a quick break, but then when we come back, I want to talk about your book, Women in the Bible, and the Bible study that you do that has been so successful. So stay with me for just a minute. I'll be right back. This is the Sam Sorbo Show. We've discovered, my husband and I, a great American company that supports our traditional values and also the work we're doing to rescue our culture from the lies of the left. So I want you to go check it out. It's called NutraMedics.com, NutraMedics.com. And you can find there great health and wellness products that are derived from the rainforests. I've found that they work incredibly for me. I take their melatonin. I get a much better night's sleep with that. I also take their relax medics and their mood medics, which are, I don't know what they are, but they're this natural blend of herbs basically, and really easy to take. They actually droppers, and I just love their products, and I love what they stand for because they have a heart for this nation and they have a heart for people. And I don't know how you would have one without the other. And that's why maybe they have both. But I just love what they do. So go to NutraMedics.com and you can actually go to sorbo.nutramedics, and that's with an X, sorbo.nutramedics.com. If you use Sorbo at checkout, you'll get a discount on anything that you purchase there. So go check it out. Get a better night's sleep, get a better day, feel better about yourself. They've got a lot of great products there, including vitamins. I use them all. So trust me, it's great. NutraMedics.com. And thank you so much for listening. Hi there. This is the Sam Sorbo Show. Second part of my interview with Marina Hofman, Willard. She's the author of a book called Women in the Bible. It's a Bible study for women, although I think men could probably learn a thing or two. There are plenty of female heroes in the Bible. And so talk to me about that. What inspired you to write this book, and what hopes do you have for it to influence people?
Yeah, Sam, the book really comes out of the very topics we're addressing today. It's a challenge to be a parent. And when I had Willow, I felt overwhelmed, not just because I was a first time mom and everyone gave me advice at every turn, but because I felt the responsibility early on of being a godly influence to her. And if I can say it so much, Sam, I realized that when she was such a tiny newborn, I was Christ to her through my words and my actions. And I was setting really a path for her life. And I needed inspiration. And it was the middle of COVID. I needed friendship and comfort. So, in that place of my own neediness, I found such deep inspiration from the women in the Bible. And Sam, the beauty about their stories is that they don't do spectacular things. Almost always, their story is incredible simply because they do the ordinary. And I think, even the midwives, it's in the middle of a hardship in Israel's history, and the Pharaoh of Egypt wants them to kill all the baby boys. And what are they going to do? Do they bend to the government and say, "Oh, well, the king told me so," or do they follow God's plan for their life and continue to be midwives and bring life? And Sam, the easiest thing ever, they just choose to keep doing their job. And why is it extraordinary? Because their very lives were at threat and they committed treason by doing it. But their action was simple. And I love that because it's something I can relate to. And this is what I wanted to tell, especially women today, that God has a call and a purpose. And it's not to become the next Billy Graham. Very few people are influencers at that level. But what we can do is say yes to God in the ordinary. And Sam, that is my own testimony, is I do simple, ordinary things in life, just taking little steps, maybe taking off my mask when I'm the only person in the room. These things are incredibly inspiring and actually have the power to change the lives around us. So it's a book of inspiration and encouragement, especially to women and moms today.
Yeah, you've done and you're doing an amazing job with Willow. I've met her. She's extremely precocious for a 3-year-old. In fact, I saw you at a speaking event the other day, and you were telling people that you've refused to wear a mask. She's never worn a mask. Of course, you haven't flown anywhere, which is the one place where you either wear the mask or you don't fly. But in any case, you asked her if she'd ever worn a mask, and she said yes.
She insists on saying yes because the absolute truth is she has a lion mask across her eyes, not her face. So she always undermines me in public. And Sam, she knows it.
She does, but that's the joy. And you know that she's going to do it. I can't believe you pulled her up there, or she joined you on stage, under her own volition. She joined you on stage,
Yes.
and you
And Sam,
asked her.
she is precocious. She wanted to be in this interview. She said, but Sam's my friend.
Yes. Well, we love her. I love her. So maybe next time we'll interview her about what it's like to wear a mask over your eyes instead of over your mouth.
Sam, she'll
I
tell
dare
you
say she
we're
would never
freedom
put a
fighters.
mask over her mouth. It hurts me when I see children with masks on. It's like physically it turns my stomach.
Yeah, and we've shared many times, Sam, the gut wrenching feeling when you see such a baby in a stroller outside. The parents are not wearing masks, the caregivers are not. It's a beautiful, glorious, breezy day in Florida, and the child's face is red and sweating from this mask that's covering their little body. I don't understand it.
Yeah. Um, I do understand it. That's the sad thing. And it's a product of our schools, which is why I want to free people from the public schools, because they've been so, they know so much that isn't so. They've been taught so much that isn't so. So that's my mission. So what's next for you? You've written this book. You're still teaching at PBA. What's next for you? What do you have on the horizon?
Well, Sam, as you know, I've started a Moms for America group here in Palm Beach County, and it's beautiful to gather with women that are like minded. As strong as I try to be on air, Sam, you know, all of us in the quiet moments of our life can feel alone and that we're the only one. And that's such a shame because that's not true. As you've said many times, we are the majority. But this group reminds me once a month, like minded women who care about faith, family, and freedom. And just being with them, and Sam, just being with people like you, it's so encouraging. So, again, a call to all the listeners today, if you're feeling alone, find support. And Sam, if it's hard, which it was for me, start your own group. Just open your home, invite some like minded people together, share stories, have a good time, and just leave feeling really encouraged and empowered again to do spectacular things in the world by our ordinary actions.
What's great about Moms for America is they have the cottage meetings, which is a program. It's a video and book sort of program. So you can invite moms over or just other women over, and watch a video, a short video, and then have a little bit of a discussion group. And so it gives the whole group focus. I accidentally developed a book study group myself, before I ever knew you, actually, here in Palm Beach County. I invited some gals over, and because I'm bored at parties, I thought I'm having a party because I want to thank these women for being so welcoming to me when I first moved into the area. And so I invited them over to my house, and I thought I don't want to just have a party where people talk about the weather because that's boring. I had just read an essay by C.S. Lewis called The Abolition of Man. And so I sent them the essay and I said, hey, if you feel like it, read the essay and that'll be something we can talk about. Well, C.S. Lewis is extremely deep, very full. And so we all sat around and we discussed this essay, and it was just uplifting. It was thought provoking. It was inspiring. It just became just it was just this wonderful evening. And at the end of the evening, they said, okay, when's the next one? And I was like, there's a next. Oh yeah, sure. There's a next. Absolutely. We're going to do this again. There's another essay. I really, and I've encouraged a lot of people, start with The Abolition of Man, because even though it was written in 1950, um, it it still rings true. Like it's just resoundingly true today. And so it's a lot of food for thought, and it's great fodder for what's happening in the marketplace of ideas today. And so I highly recommend it. So, and then that just grew into a book study, and I've got like 30 women involved now. You're one of them. You've come to, I think, everyone since I met you and invited you, and it's really become just a wonderful inspirational evening to meet people who share your values, because we are living in, this is a new word for me, a new phrase, cultural tyranny. What do you think of that?
Good, Sam.
Yeah, it's
It's
cultural
good. And
tyranny.
you're talking about the comfort and the empowerment you find when we're together as like-minded women. I want to come back also to this discussion of the cottage meetings and learning about the Constitution. And Sam, one day in your podcast, this attracted me to your work so much. You asked what a mandate was. And it's such an obvious, silly question. I thought, what a mandate? Well, it's like a law. And then you went on about where is it in the Constitution? Sam, your question put me on a path to realize much more profoundly what the Constitution was about, what my freedoms were, and I will never let someone take them away again. So even that one question you
And
raised,
you're
which I thought was silly,
Canadian.
I'm Canadian, but I know the Constitution well because you sent me on a path, Sam, of discovery, and I was amazed by it. I became shocked at how powerful the Constitution was. And when I want to defy something, I don't need to go on my own path to do so. I need to go backwards in time, revisit the Constitution, and ground my decisions in the freedoms that we have here in America. So, Sam, I love that you give us a sense of like-minded fellowship and the encouragement and comfort in that and strength, but also you remind us of the laws of the country we live in so that no one ever takes it away. And that's what I appreciate about Moms for America too, teaching women about the Constitution so then we can stand up and fight for our freedom with the power of the Constitution and the knowledge of what it says behind us.
So I will say that Marina is she's just a firebrand. She's just on fire, and she's a workhorse, and she knows a ton of people, and she's growing the community by leaps and bounds, which is a wonderful service. You don't have to be half of the powerhouse that Marina is and start your own Moms for America group. It's a group that I've been affiliated with for quite a while. I highly recommend it. There's also Moms for Liberty. They're in the school systems. They're trying to get changes made within the school and the school districts. And you can look up them as well. But we encourage listeners, just get involved. You'd be surprised at how fulfilling it is to be working towards a goal instead of just sitting whining about complaining about what's happening in our culture while we're watching it disintegrate. And what's wonderful about the disintegration of the culture is it's waking people up so that they are understanding that they have to get involved and they have to start fighting for what they believe in. And we fight for our values because we understand that our values are better. They just are better. They're better for the longevity of the nation. They're better for the happier lives of our children. And I'm not afraid to say that. And they want me to say, no, all values are equal. That's not the case. So Marina, why don't you finish us up? And because I'm going to have to take a break here, but it's just been wonderful to have you on the show.
And Sam, let me say one thing. Now is the time. It's not tomorrow, it's today. If you don't like your house and you don't feel it's suitable, find one single friend that you think might be a bit conservative and like-minded and go out for coffee with them. Start there. It's not about anything extraordinary, Sam. It's so ordinary. You opened your home and look what it led to. And everything I'm in Moms for America, Sam, a whole nother conversation. That's also because you simply took a step and invited me to one of their events. So everyone today, please remember, an ordinary act. Just take a little step. Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't wait till everything is perfectly aligned.
And by the way, if you have something that you can invite someone to, even if they can't come, you still get the brownie points for inviting them.
I like that.
So we get stronger in community. Marina Hofman, Willard, thank you so much for joining me. The name of the book is Women in the Bible. And this is the Sam Sorbo Show. Thanks for listening.